Thank you so much for joining the We Don't Play podcast show today, Porsché. How are you?
So good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. We got to meet in person, at Creative Con. And, it's different when you meet in person than when you meet online. Or you meet online and then you meet in person. And it's different because not everyone gets to meet you in person. So it was really great meeting you and spending all that amazing time at the conference.
Same here. Wait, are you saying that I'm different online versus in person?
You're the same. You're actually better in person, actually. there's more in person because people are like, you can get a little bit of the piece, when you talk to me, but when you get to know me, then you know what's going on.
I love it. Definitely. Same for you. I mean, it was a great connection. So I'm excited that we've been able to build that relationship. Like now we solidified it. And so collaboration all day.
Let's go. I'm sure people are like, okay, why do I need a book? I'm an entrepreneur. Why is my book part of my career roadmap? Some people think like that. So I'm ready to listen, and I'm excited for them to listen too, because I feel like they're like, I don't know what I'm about to listen to. So I'll pass it to you. Let us know about how did Porsché start? Like, where did this all begin? Take us back.
Oh, let's go back. Okay. Going back. So I'm living in California right now, but I actually was born and raised in Pittsburgh. So I'm an East Coast babe. And had an amazing childhood. And I've always been a book nerd, even as a little kid. Like I was a voracious reader. So I would read multiple books a week as a kid. And I loved it in school when they gave us reading material. So I was a huge reader, even as I was younger. In 2009, me and my family, we moved from Pennsylvania to California. And at the time I was 16. So, it's and glamour of Hollywood, I was super excited for. But when we got to California, things kind of took a deep dive. My father basically turned our family into a cult, something we did not expect at all. So facing all levels of abuse, depression, we weren't allowed to go anywhere. I wasn't allowed to date, wasn't allowed to get a job. And this is at like the prime time of my life as a teen. This all happened right when I was 16. So I was forced to go to virtual schooling. So somebody who used to be a social butterfly, I was in all the extracurriculars back in Pittsburgh. In California, now I didn't know anybody, didn't have any friends, had to do school from home, online. I did really great, but I wasn't allowed to go to college. So for 10 years, from 16 to 26 years old, me, my siblings, my mom, we were all trapped in that situation. The only form of escape that I had was I would sneak online at night while the rest of the house were sleeping. And there were 9 people in the household. So while the rest of the house was sleeping, I would sneak online at night and I would read books that were unpublished. So these are books that writers wrote and uploaded to platforms like Wattpad or Goodread, right? And I loved it so much because I was reading about the world that I was being kept from. The only problem was these unpublished books were riddled with errors. And I have been a self-proclaimed grammar police ever since I was little. Like, grammar was my thing ever since I was like 5 years old. So reading these errors and these very good stories used to bother me. So I reached out to the authors who had uploaded them and I was like, listen, I have nothing to do. Can I edit this for you for free? And they were like, yeah. So I was editing free work for free for these authors. And I just loved it so much. And then, of course, at the time, I ventured onto another platform and it was a language exchange website. And that's where I met a man from Nigeria. And I fell in love with him like super fast, like right away. I was like, I love this guy. And I had no previous experience anyway. So of course, like I fell hard and fast. My first love. And he told me, he was like, did you know that you could probably make money off of this editing that you're doing? And I was like, are you serious? So I created an Upwork profile and sure enough, I was freelance editing. I was getting paid good money to do this. But because I was trapped in the house, I wasn't going anywhere to really spend it, you know? So I was just keeping all my revenue in a PayPal account because I didn't have a bank account because I couldn't prove my identity. So I just was keeping it in a PayPal account. And then fast forward 5 years and we're in 2019 now, or sorry, 10 years, fast forward 10 years, 2019, I've got about 15 grand in a PayPal account. And in April of 2019, my oldest sister, says to me, Porsche, I can't do this anymore. Either we leave or I take my life. And I was like, listen, I got this man in Nigeria who I'm deeply in love with, and I got like $15,000 in an account. Say less. So we planned, and by July 11th, 2019, she and I took what we could carry. Unfortunately, we had to leave our other siblings behind. I had to leave my mom behind. But we escaped, literally. She put a pillow over the alarm system that my father had, and we snuck out with only what we could carry. She ended up staying with a friend in Indiana, and I flew business class to Nigeria. And when I got there, guy that I had been dating this whole time proposed to me. And we got married 3 months after that, and thus began my life in Nigeria. So I lived there for 4 years. And in that time, I realized that I didn't have an identity, didn't know who I was, didn't know what I wanted in life. But my husband gave me the space to figure out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. One of my authors that I was editing for at the time was like, Porsche, can you help me publish this? And I told him no. Sorry, I can't, because that's not my area of expertise. I can help you edit it though. And he was like, no, it has to be you. So I said, okay, I'll do it. He said, I'll give you time and money to learn. I give you what you need, learn the industry, and I'll come back and help me publish my book. So I did. I took about 3 to 5 months to really understand the self-publishing space, understand why so many people were being scammed in this industry, where all the holes and gaps are, how I can fill that, and then how I can later educate authors on the right way to self-publish. So I took that information, I came back, I published his book, it became a bestseller, and I was like, this, like I figured it out, I knew how to do it. And he just started crying on the Zoom when I told him that his book was live, it's published. And he was like, never thought it would happen, and it's been so many years. And just seeing that look on his face and realizing that my action of publishing his book for him meant the world to him. I was like, oh my God, I found my thing. Like, I found my thing. I have the information from the past as an editor, and now I have this information as a self-publisher. I have to just keep doing this for people. So I talked to my husband, who was a student at the time, and I was like, listen, I know I'm freelancing, and I know that's paying the bills, but I need to start my own company, because this is what moves me. And he's like, say less. Do your thing. We'll struggle for a little bit if we have to, but that sounds like a good pivot. So we pivoted. I formed my company, Mysticque Publishing. Fast forward a couple years, and now I am an award-winning book coach. I'm a TEDx speaker now, independent publishing expert. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. My sister is doing amazing, and life is beautiful.
What? Oh my goodness, Portia, that's a movie. I think that deserves a movie. That's like a Hall of Fame director's cut, because you saw something, you went for it, you paid for it, and it's like, if you didn't go through all these things, do you feel like you'd be where you are today?
Oh, hell no. No, not at all. Because where I am today is so intentional and so meticulously crafted that I wouldn't have been able to design my life if I didn't leave, didn't realize that I didn't have an identity, and then didn't use that first year of living in Nigeria to build my identity, right? And I realized that I was effectively a blank canvas. As much as, my father did what he did and that sucked, there's a small blessing in that, because he gave me a blank canvas that I could use to design every facet of my identity, my life, my business. Everything is by design, and I wouldn't have that if not for the situation.
Wow. I love that. You take the negative, turn it to a positive. And I always think about like negative films, because back in the day I used to also do photography and have negative films. We put them in the light room, in the dark room, and then we wait, and then we come out and we're like, okay, there it is. So now it makes sense, because you have to go through the darkness to get to the light. Joy comes in the morning, but you have to go through that sorrow, that cry, but it's like, it's shaping you to get to where you are. And then when you get to see how people react, it helps you also help more people that need the same result.
Absolutely. Yeah. It that way. I told you, there's nothing you don't do. Now you're a photographer. It's your list of skills is just it's just increasing every day.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you know what? This is the perfect place to be, the podcast, because I can't do everything. So at some point, something has to be said. And then you're like, oh, okay, we could go back there. So it makes sense, and it comes circles back to, how we are seeing ourselves out there, and we connect the dots. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, their first block, and also speaking as an entrepreneur too, and business owners, that if I'm thinking about a book, then I have so many things to think about before I think about publishing the book, from the artwork to the font to the style to the draft to the paper to the style of paper. So people don't think even beyond what I've even given options for. So if someone wants a book or needs to have a book as an entrepreneur, why is it so important for them to consider that in 2025 with AI as well?
Well, there's that, right? Okay, so regardless of time, the whole idea of a book is that it is timeless, right? So no matter if we're back in 2002 or 2025, if you had published a book in 2002, it would still be valid and even potentially relevant today. That's because books are timeless. We're still reading books from centuries ago, right? What we need to realize as entrepreneurs is, in this space, in this modern digital age, thought leadership is everything. Because right now, and we won't necessarily call it an oversaturation, but right now there are so many people who are clamoring for that spotlight. They want the attention of the general public. So we have to realize that the best way to position yourself to do that is to be unique, is to be an individual, not just another somebody. And the beautiful thing that makes us unique is our personal stories. So even if you have the same information, so let's say you're in a coaching industry, odds are there are 50 million other coaches that are teaching what you're teaching. But what makes you unique is your story. So if we're talking about brand awareness, brand visibility, thought leadership, and overall expansion and growth of your personal brand, combining your personal story with your expertise is what's going to set you apart from the rest. And that instantly builds your thought leadership. Another thing for entrepreneurs is, in order for you to generate money for your business, especially for us coaches and consultants, credibility is everything. And that's why you're called an author, because you have authority on a particular topic. So if you've literally written the book on a particular topic, we know that you're the person worth listening to. So while everybody else just has the YouTube videos and the Instagram stories and all that stuff, you literally have a book that backs up your credibility and establishes your authority in your field. And what's so beautiful about that is, for those of us who are really looking for thought leadership expansion, one of the biggest things that you need to do besides having a book is also look at public speaking. So you want to make sure that you're getting on those stages. If you're out there, you're speaking at conferences, you're speaking at summits, you're on panels, people are asking for your information, your expertise. That says so much to who you are and that you really do know your stuff. But we have to remember, when you're getting on stages, event organizers never look for speakers. Period. If whoever's hosting a conference or a summit, it's not speakers they're looking for, it's experts. They bring in experts to speak on a particular topic. So if you're just presenting yourself as a speaker, you're going to be overlooked. But if you're presenting yourself as an expert on a specific topic in a specific niche, and you have a book that proves you know your stuff, you're a league above the rest. And it's going to be easier for event organizers to pick you out of the crowd. So entrepreneurs, we really need to find ways to capture our wisdom and our personal story and something that is timeless. It builds a legacy and expands our thought leadership. And that is a book.
I love that. That is the definition of entrepreneurship. I feel like you said that. And one thing you said, I don't want people to get this over them, is that author and authority, because that's a seed word. And, I love that you put that into perspective, because some people don't really know what to say, even in a normal conversation. So how can they put that into a book or formulate what they're thinking into actual tangible products?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think anybody who is passionate about their topic, whatever their zone of genius is, they'll be able to talk about it for hours. So one thing I'd like to say is if I put you in a chair and I lined up 200 people behind your chair and I said, each person's going to come up and ask you one question about your niche, would you be able to answer every single one of those questions? If the answer is yes, then that means you know your industry through and through, right? You are a bona fide expert. So if you take those questions that people are asking and you realize, oh, this is a problem that my audience has, you can build a solution around those questions, around those fears, around those desires, or whatever the problem is that your audience is facing. Build a solution around that, and then include your personal story on how you got to that solution. Combine the two in a book and you're winning, right? And that's why I say it's always about your personal story and your wisdom. If you have those two things, it's a 1-2 punch of impact. Because the world's most impactful books are simply solutions to the problems that people have. And if you can solve that problem, it builds your credibility. And if you can share a story around that problem, it builds the emotional connection. So when somebody reads that book, they're connected with you. They know, like, and trust you. And we know in marketing, those are the 3 things you need before somebody invests with you. That book will build that know, like, and trust factor for you. So at the end of the day, you don't want to overthink what goes in the book. Just take a look at the problem, solve the problem, combine your story, and that's all your book needs to contain. And one of the best people who did that, I would say, is Mike Michalowicz, which a lot of us have read Profit First. It's a really good book, and it talks about the framework that he uses to retain profit in his business. But the way he wrote that book is so clever because as you're reading it, there are so many other stories. Some of them are personal for him. It's his own personal story. Some he talks about his mom. He talks about people he's met at conferences. But these are still stories that allow you to connect. And then he gives you the framework. And that makes it so profound because now the information is easy to remember because we're going to remember the stories and the way those stories made us feel. And we connect those stories to the information or the framework that he's delivering, and you just have so much power. And now his strategy sticks with me. Now, if he just gave me the information, I would probably forget it. I'm on it. I have to be honest with you. Like, I would probably forget whatever information he gave. But because it's wrapped up in story, it now makes it easy to remember because now I can remember how I felt when I listened to his framework.
I love that. That is deep. It got me thinking about the way people process things, and it got me thinking too about like the time to process it. So like with books, people say it takes X amount of years. You know, some people wait till they're 50 till they, write a book.
Yeah.
Some people start when they're 10. So what is usually like a good timeline from start to finish, from ideation phase to, I would say, execution phase or launching phase? What does that look like typically for a professional?
The full phase, yes, if you're working with a professional. So if you're not working with a professional, on average, it takes an author about 6 years to complete their book on their own. When working with a professional, from ideation to completion, like until you're ready to push that launch button, I think it should take no longer than 6 months. And even 6 months is longer. It's too long for me. So I like to get my authors set up and ready to go within 3 months. At least the book should be published. Even if we have like a little push campaign after publishing, before launch. And I know it sounds different because it's like, isn't launch publishing? No, there's when you actually publish the book, and then that's when you host a launch event afterwards. Some people do it the other way around. But from ideation to publishing, it should be like 3 months, right? Because ideation can happen in a day. That's a single session where you think you have a book idea. We rework it. We incorporate the reader's problem. We build out the solution. And if you are really good at what you do, if you're a bona fide expert, that stuff is easy because you already know your audience. You already know the problem because you're dealing with it in your business every single day. So you know that stuff already. But you take that problem and then you build the solution around it and then you incorporate your story. That's the ideation phase that can happen in a single 1 hour session. It should not take longer than that if you know your stuff. And then we move forward with building the outline because you can't build a house without a blueprint. And a lot of people who are just trying to type out their books, it's like trying to build a house and you do not have a floor plan. Don't do that. Like, even legally, you can't do that. The government would not allow you to do something like that, right? So it's the same thing with the book. You have to have an outline. And the outline phase takes a little bit longer because we do want to make sure we incorporate everything. And that includes doing all the necessary research, gathering all of our sources, everything that we need to put that outline together. It could take maybe about 3 or 4 sessions, but understand that each session is still an hour. So you're still looking at up to 4 hours to get your outline done. Once the outline is done, you can write so very easily. So the outlines are so detailed that when you're writing, you overcome writer's block. You bypass it, I would say. You bypass writer's block because your outline is telling you exactly what needs to be written. So, for example, when I did my book, The CEO Author, my book is 11 chapters. And my outline was so very detailed that I knew what was going into every chapter. I had all of my sources there. I had all of my quotes, all of my story nuggets, if you will. It was all there. So I did 1 chapter a day. And I spent about 2 hours writing the chapter. So that's 11 days my book was done. And it was written in 22 hours, if you add it all up. So that's how long that should take. And then when the book is done being written, so let's say you've written your book and it took you about a week, let's just say, or 2 weeks at most, 2 weeks at most, then you're ready for production. And it depends on who you're working with. Some editors take a long time, others do not. So my team, when we take on a project, we try to let that be the only project we work on. Maybe we'll only do about up to 3 projects at one time, just so we can make sure we're moving on them. So we take no longer than 3 weeks to edit a book. And then you have cover design, and cover design is happening while editing is happening, so the same 3 weeks. And then formatting takes no longer than 2 weeks. So when you add that all up, you're just, about a month and a half in, maybe 2 months, but we like to do table reads. So when the book is done, we do a live reading of the book, and the author and my team members come in, and the author brings in family members or other beta readers, and we do a live reading to make sure we don't miss anything. That extends it to about 3 months. Now, if the author had a very busy schedule and they could not write on a concise writing schedule, then that's how you get to 4 or 5 or even 6 months. It should take no longer than 6 months for the whole thing to be done.
From 6 years to 6 months, speed track your book publishing with Porsché, Mysticque, Steele. I think that should just be the title. That's what I was thinking.
Is it? I know, I need to write that down.
That's going to be the title. And I feel like that title came from this moment, because that was a moment. And I feel like anyone listening should at least understand the time and money factor, because 6 years is a lot of time. That's a lot of mortgage payments, so you think about what you could be making back if you just put in the time like you did, 22 hours out of 24 in a day, but you spread it out through 11. I mean, it's possible, and you did it, so I think they should do it too.
Absolutely. I'm going to start quantifying things by mortgage payments. It's like mortgage payments. I like that. That's a good one.
I love that. Thank you so much, Porsché. I feel like you've definitely given somebody the blueprint, the capstone on how to definitely become a publisher within the asset of being a book author, but also showing authority in their niche, using that as a product to now supply information instead of them going on a call every single time. So this has definitely been helpful, and I feel like people now want to say, okay, Porsché, take my time. What do you want? How can we connect? How can they connect with you, and what can they do to stay in touch?
Yeah, so if you text the word book to 901-205-9804, that's my personal number. So I will be able to respond to you. I give you a link. We'll talk, we'll chat, maybe we'll hop on the phone. But ultimately, it depends on what the person is looking for, right? Everybody is in a different space in their lives and in their business, and they have different ideas of what they want to accomplish. So it's never a one size fits all. Never, ever, ever. It can't be, because we all have different goals, right? So if you text the word book to 901-205-9804, then we'll talk back and forth, or I'll drop a link for you to book a discovery call with me.
Ooh, I love that, Porsché. That's a direct call to action, and I feel like when they take action, they will take that action that will give them the results they're looking for. So this has been so good. Thank you, Portia. I knew this was gonna be dope. I was like, yeah, y'all about to experience something heavy. So you brought it. You brought it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Anytime.